Journalists come into contact with various types of news events every day and make news events into news reports. Crime reports are one of them. In fact, each act of crime reporting presents a different set of challenges for victims, their families, and their friends, the victim advocates, and also the reporters who cover them. This job requires journalists to have integrity and a keen and accurate grasp of events. This guidance is intended to better help journalists report crime and crime victims correctly. It may include crime report overview, how to report on crime, special consideration, other notes, and citations, those 5 aspects. Firstly, let's take a brief look at the definition and the meaning of the crime reporting. Crime reporting is a reporting of anything that people do that is illegal. The significance of media reporting crime news is to expose crimes, eliminate hidden dangers of social security, promote social harmony and development. Also, help readers understand what crimes happen in order to prevent similar things from happening to them. In addition, they also need to understand what kind of behavior is against the law and how to arrest and punish offenders. This helps them regulate their behavior. It is important to report crime correctly because inappropriate reporting can cause harm to the individual victim or provoke social conflict. Then, do you know how to report on crime? When you want to report a crime, the first step is to interview. There are some reminders that can help you deal with it. When you intend to interview a criminal, he or she is a prisoner and you wanted to interview him in prison, you should report to the editor in advance and get permission from the prison authorities. Do not have too much contact with the families of criminals, because you may fall into the suspicion of being bought by the families of criminals. And avoid contact with fugitives or persons wanted by the police, as a criminal offense may be committed. Don't get yourself into trouble. If you want to interview crime victims, you have to take it seriously, cause an important change for the news media is to report on traumatized crime victims without re-victimizing them. Before you are ready to begin, please make full preparations. First, you need to get as much detailed information as possible about the victim, such as name, age, address, and of course, details of their injuries, so you can talk to them smoothly. When we reconstruct events during the interview, it may cause distress to the victims. Therefore, we need to appropriate and sensitive access to victims. You should gain the victim's trust first, then seek their consent to be interviewed. It should be noted that victims of sexual assault and other violent treatment may have stress trauma. For this type of interview subject, whenever possible, the reporter should not bring any assistive equipment such as tape recorder and a camera to the first contact with the victim. However, if the victim still do not want to be interviewed, or if the victim unfortunately had passed away, an alternative spokesperson should be found. You can find the victim's immediate family or friend, or the necessary intermediaries such as a police or social services, or a replacement designated by the victim. During the interview, please avoid asking leading questions. Trauma victims are more vulnerable than usual. You just need them to narrate what they know to be true, not cause them to exaggerate or be wrong. Besides, avoid asking auxiliary questions. There is still a stigma attached to some crimes, especially in intimate crimes such as sexual assault. Don't ask questions to reinforce the impression that the victim is somehow at fault. If you want to interview witnesses of a crime, you should build trust first. Promise them you will keep their privacy safe to let them agree to be interviewed. One thing to know is that Once court procedures had begun, interviewing witnesses must refer to legal advice and editorial policies. Otherwise, you may have trouble in breaking the law. Then we go to the specific crime reporting guidelines. As you all know, there are lots of different types of reporters, such as text report, video report, and image report. Different types of reporting have different points to pay attention to when reporting crime news. Let's look at text report first. The most important thing is to protect the privacy of the interviewee. Do not disclose private information in articles, especially in violent cases involving murders, to avoid retaliation from attacks and protect their lives. The sudden and transient nature of many crimes means that you can't always rely on victims, witnesses, or even the police account of what happened. Report only the facts you know as facts. Everything else must be sourced and trusted. Avoid describing the details of the crime because of the risk of imitation. Only report the main facts of the crime. Reporting on crime requires special sensitivity because what you are communicating can easily spread fear and alarm. You must always balance your audience's need to be informed with your responsibility to avoid unnecessarily alarming them. Avoid provoking conflict and inciting hatred. A report may constitute a criminal offense if it is likely to incite hatred in relation to race. A report may constitute a criminal offense if it is likely to incite hatred in relation to race, religious belief, and something like that. Avoid media trial. Trial is decided by a court judge. You just need to report the facts, and the comments you make should not be influenced by public opinion. And last but not least, the desire of survivors for punishment or perpetrators must be balanced with the social objectives of promoting security, achieving justice, and protecting human dignity. You should check carefully before writing it. When doing video reports, please also be careful to protect the privacy of interviews, such as music and sound changes can be used. Pay attention that you should avoid shooting bloody crime scenes, which will victimize the families of victims, while many in the public also feel repelled. When it comes to the image report, the privacy is still an important thing to be stressed. Photos of victims and victims shall not be disclosed without permission. For some non-malignant cases, pay attention to the protection of their privacy rights and portrait rights. The names and photos of juvenile offenders cannot be revealed. For reporters of close trial cases, such as cases involving national security and secrets, suspects' face should be masked. Now we go to the third part. Do you know how to deal with some special cases or groups in crime report, such as homicide cases and interview a child? Actually, in homicide cases, before contacting the homicide victim's family, please check with your editor or police to make sure they have been notified by the police in order to avoid accidental death notifications. You should verify identity first. Keep asking questions until you are sure you are contacting the right person. Because once a reporter discovers that he had contacted the wrong person until asking the first question. Journalists must also take personal responsibility for ensuring that photos or video tapes of deceased are returned to their families intact. Then, you should always keep in touch and follow up on further information. You also need to be extra careful when interviewing vulnerable people, such as a child and the old. Some children are too young to be easily manipulated by unintentional leading questions, and groups such as the elderly or disabled may have different needs. So, journalists without relative professional training are not equipped to do a good job and should not be expected or ordered to do so. When reporting a kidnapping or disappearance case, Be careful to keep the identity of the victim confidential. When reporting a kidnapping or disappearances case, be careful to keep the identity of the victim confidential. A February 2007 case involving a young boy who was abducted in Missouri and later found in the home of a convicted child molester with a body who had been missing for years, which highlighted the issue of identity secrecy. Well, let's look at some other considerations. The news media should emulate the right to forget initiative. Do not release the names or photos of individuals involved in low-level arrests. And in your report, please pay attention to the vocabulary used. For example, rape or assault is not sex or intercourse, so don't call it that. Besides, in some countries, rape is called sexual assault. Check the exact terms in different countries. Avoid past tense and passive language, especially in case of sexual assault, because the passive voice highlights the trauma suffered by the victim instead of the criminal. The words like alleged and accused are filled with the implication that the victim is lying. It can make the reader sympathize with the perpetrator, so don't use that. You can use date victims or reported victims instead. And the last part is some citations. Okay, that's all my introduce to the guidance about how to report a crime. Hope it is useful. Thank you.